Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when and where you are. Welcome to another Festival in a Box 3.0 tasting session. This is the Highland Park 15-year-old session, which is a brand new whiskey from this distillery, which is always something to celebrate. And I'm delighted to say, we're joined by Teddy Joseph of Edrington, who is the man to talk to when it comes to all things Highland Park. So I'm going to bring Teddy in just now. Teddy, good morning or good afternoon. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Eddie?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good, thank you. Pretty good. I'm looking forward to trying this new 15-year-old Highland Park. Before we get on to the whiskey itself, though, Teddy, could you maybe just introduce yourself to the viewers and what it is you do with Edrington, who are obviously the owner of Highland Park?
Yeah, so hello, everybody. I am Teddy Joseph. I'm a whiskey specialist at Edrington UK. My job basically is to educate people on the brands that we represent. We're quite fortunate to have a stellar lineup of single malt whiskey brands, and Highland Park is kind of my baby in the portfolio. So I do a lot of discussion and education on that brand. And I believe I've got the best job in the whole company for that reason.
It sounds like a pretty good one. So this new Highland Park 15-year-old, shall we, well, I'm going to pour some. Have you got some
Yes.
there with you?
So that's the bottle there, beautiful packaging. So the 15-year-old is, it was once within the portfolio several years ago, and it came out, and we're delighted to have it back in the portfolio again now. Highland Park is known for its sherry cask maturation of its whiskies, and this is no exception. But the previous iteration of the 15-year-old, it was leaning more towards American oak sherry season casks. So we had the 12, the 15, and the 18-year-olds, the original 15-year-old, and the 12-year-old and the 18-year-old typically lean towards more European oak. So we're going to get some more dried fruit spices coming through. And the American oak gives us a bit more of those vanillas and citruses and hints of coconut. And that was with the old 15. Now this new 15, the Viking Heart, we are leading with a large proportion of first fill European oak, followed by then some American sherry seasoned oak. And finally, we're using some refill casks, so casks that we're using for the second time. And what they allow us to do is to allow the DNA of Highland Park, the new make spirit that we make, that comes through. So we generally pick up a lot of that aromatic heather, that slight peat smoke coming through those refill casks. Now, because we're using a high proportion of first fill, you'd expect to find kind of like the 12 and the 18, a lot of dried fruit, orange zest, spice coming through. But in actuality, at first nosing and tasting this, I was surprised at the actual overall profile. For me, it comes across on the nose, you've got a lovely sweet malt barley note coming through. There's a lovely sugared sort of element there. A little hint of that aromatic peat smoke on the back note, but generally lovely sweet tones coming through. And if we don't disregard that color, it's a lovely light golden color as well. And all the Highland Parks are 100% natural color, and that comes from the casks. There's no color caramel. Because we're very passionate about the wood that we use, our wood policy, we want that to shine through. So natural color, lovely sweet aromas. If you have a little taste, Eddie, and everyone that's watching. I've just let it move around my mouth, coat my mouth, let it go down. For me, there's citrus notes. It's quite vibrant. Big hit of vanilla. And this is more akin to almost the original 15, which was led with American sherry seasoned casks. For me, it's got lots of the one big descriptor that me and colleagues had when we first tried this whiskey was we thought it was like a dessert. We thought it was kind of like apple pie or apple crumble. It was really quite Moorish, quite dessert-like, pastry notes coming through. So you've got some vanillas, you've got some cooked apples, hints of cinnamon. There's that vanilla aspect coming through. It's just very, very sweet, rich, little bit of that sugar. You might pick it up as honey, but really, really light and more the style of American oak sherry seasoned casks, as opposed to the European oak, which is a bit, I always say American oak's up here and European is down here. American oak is your confectionery flavors. European oak is your spicy, rich, Moorish, decadent. But I think this is kind of leaning towards the upper end of that scale, which is quite surprising for me. I don't know how you find it, Eddie.
I find it delicious.
That's a good start.
Well, I'm a big fan of Highland Park, as you know, well, among many other whiskies, but I just love the combination of the sweetness and the kind of spicy smoke.
And that smoke it comes through at the back. It's a bit more prominent here on the nose and on the palate compared to the 12-year-old. 12-year-old I always find is a bit more subdued. You have to go searching for that aromatic peat smoke a little bit. And I think because there's a high proportion of that European oak, it's predominantly European oak, it kind of hides it a little bit. Whereas when you're using a bit more American oak, you start to see it appear through the gaps, if you like, and it's got a bit more presence. But it's not, as with all Highland Parks, it's not overpowering. It's a lovely balance of that peat smoke.
Yes, absolutely. And I'd like to talk about the peat in a little while, because obviously that's part of the interesting story with Highland Park. I'm just adding a little bit of water to it to see if there's anything else I can tease out of it.
Yeah, feel free. I mean, this is at 44% ABV, so it's a lovely strength to really lift those flavors. But adding a little bit of water can always help pull out little nuances that we didn't pick up originally. And you leave it for a second, we come back to that whiskey, other flavors start to come to the forefront and develop, and that weren't initially there. What are you picking up?
I get the smokiness coming through a bit more clearly now, which I often do when I add water to peated whiskies. But still getting that lovely kind of burnt orange peel. I always get kind of smoky marmalade with Highland Park. It's just one of the marmalade on slightly burnt toast or something.
The lovely crusty end, the crispy ends. Someone described this to me the other day as we have a tasting note for the 15. Gordon Motion, our master whiskey maker, is put through as like vanilla sponge cake. Somebody else described this as kind of like a lemon shortbread element to it, which I kind of liked. It's lovely sort of biscuity, malty sort of cereal note, a lot of citrus zest, whether it's lemon or orange. Again, that kind of sweet, almost dessert-like style. I'm a massive fan of this, and as I said, I'm glad to have it in the portfolio to now complete that journey from 12 to 18. We've got the 15 back, which is cracking. It stands out obviously from the others because of the packaging. We've gone with a ceramic bottle, and this is to sort of mark many moons ago when we would have bottled Highland Park. They would have gone in earthenware like this. So that's a little sort of nod back to our bottling practices maybe hundreds of years ago. And this is made by a company called Wade Ceramics in the UK. I believe they're based near Stoke, who have a history of ceramic production, one of the best in the UK. So we went with them to help us create this packaging. And like our glass bottles, we've taken the lovely embossed detail from those glass bottles and we've put them onto this pack as well.
No, it's a good package all round, Teddy, is what it is. I mean, obviously, the whiskey inside the container is the most important thing, but it's never hurts to have a nice ceramic bottle lying about.
It's a bit taller than the other bottles. It's a bit eye catching. Come out with that 15, make a bit more of a statement, and one of those things. I'm sure you're the same. Nobody likes change that much, and so they see something new, they're kind of like, "Why have you done that?" And it's like, just as you said, then as soon as you taste a liquid, that becomes the secondary, and it's all about the primary, which is how delicious that whiskey is. So
I have no problem with it whatsoever. I suppose the only challenge with it is seeing how much is left.
How much you've got left. I know. Yeah, you get used to like, oh, that it feels a lot easier to lift that bottle now.
Yeah. And now listen, while we're enjoying that lovely 15-year-old, could you perhaps just in a nutshell give us a quick potted history of Highland Park, because obviously it's one of the oldest still operating distilleries in Scotland and therefore in the world, and so it does have a rich story to it, which is obviously tied in with the whole Viking thing. This isn't kind of an invented history, is it? It's the Viking thing is very real and very much a part of the.
It is, and it's a good thing you point out as well. Actually, that Highland Park, founded in 1798 in Orkney, most northerly whiskey distillery in Scotland. Our founding father, a gentleman called Magnus Jonsson, who was a Viking descendant, because the Orkney Islands were once ruled by Viking kingdoms for over 600 years, about 1,000 years ago. And the islands have an indelible mark across them. That Viking ancestry is there in the architecture, the place names, and even in the people that still reside in Orkney. They can trace their history, about a third of them can, back to the Viking era. So it is an important part of our brand. But I have to say, Eddie, we are actually not going to be focusing so much on that moving forward. As much as we appreciate that, the islands and our whiskey as well have this heritage, it's more going to be about what makes Highland Park special, what sets it apart. And it's really about the 5 keystones of production that set Highland Park apart, because no other whiskey distillery is produced using these 5 keystones of production. So we talk about, first of all, our aromatic peat that we hand cut from Hobberston Moor, which is our peat bog, about 7 miles from the distillery. We cut that in May and June, and that we use to flavour the peated element in our whiskey. This is only a slightly peated whiskey, Highland Park. Roughly about 20% of the barley that we use is peated, 80% is unpeated, and we mix the two together. This is actually a jar of that peat that we collect from Hobberston Moor, and it's key to the flavour profile, because on the open expanse where Hobberston is, there are no trees, but what there is a lot of heather, and that heather shrubbery has slowly been decomposing for thousands of years. And when we burn it, we believe it gives a floral element to our new make spirit, which we can then pick up in the final product, the whiskey, after it's been aged. So we have our aromatic peat, we have our floor maltings, hand-turned floor maltings. So we still run traditional floor maltings. We still have 2 kilns in operation at the distillery. One of only a handful of distilleries that can still say that. And we're very proud of that fact. And we control 100% the peated element that goes into Highland Park. Then we have our exceptional sherry casks. So Highland Park and Edrington are known for their passion for maturation. We have a very stringent wood policy. We don't use second-hand casks, sherry casks. We actually create our own from trees that we buy at auction. So we have a acorn to glass policy with our wood policy, our maturation. So from purchasing a tree standing in a forest to getting casks delivered up to our distillery made from the wood of that tree, that can be a 6-year process. And that includes the air drying of that wood, which can take 2.5 years. The coopering of that wood into casks, big 500-litre butts or puncheons. Then the seasoning of that cask with Oloroso sherry for up to 18 months. And then finally taking that cask and transporting it via ship up to the distillery. It's a very long and lengthy process, but we believe it's paramount to producing the best casks possible to give us the best flavour and 100% natural colour, which we find in our whiskey. We then talk about our cask or cool maturation climate, which is a 4th keystone. The Orkney Islands have a very temperate climate, can be anywhere from 0 degrees Celsius all the way up to 16 degrees Celsius. So it's not very extreme compared to the mainland where we are. I live in Edinburgh. Currently it's probably about 4 degrees just now, but it can be -5. It can be plus 25 in the summer if we're lucky. Those extremes allow for a lot more fluctuation in the wood if your casks are maturing in that atmosphere. Our casks mature in a temperate climate, so they have a very mellow, more harmonious maturation period. We don't soak into the wood as deeply. We don't go through those extremes, but we do have a lovely, joyous, harmonious journey to get to where we get to. And then finally, cask harmonization. This is key. This is what Gordon Motion, our whiskey maker, it's his final mark, his seal of approval, if you will. Rather than just taking different casks of different ages and bringing them together and then bottling them, he'll take those different casks and he'll let them sit and marry for a time. Could be a minimum of a month, could be 6 months, could be up to a year, depending on the age of the whiskies or the expression being produced. But that final stage, we believe it's important because it's going to deliver, again, a more harmonious mouthfeel, more harmonious overall experience when we try that whiskey. It's a step that not many whiskey distilleries go through because it means that you've got whiskey sitting there for maybe a month to 6 months, which could be bottled and being sold right away. But we go through that extra step because we believe it's important to the overall experience. So those 5 keystones underpin Highland Park. It's what sets us apart and what makes us what we are. As I said, the Viking heritage is all important, absolutely, and we'll give that a nod. We do it with our packaging, we do it with our subheadings, for example, here, Viking Heart. But moving forward, we're actually going to be focusing on those 5 keystones and focusing on Orkney and an all-encompassing phrase, a wild harmony, what makes Highland Park taste the way it does. It's the environment, it's the location, it's what shapes the islands, it's what shapes the peat that we use, is the surroundings, the landscape, it's the environment. So we're going to focus more on that and less on actually our Viking ancestry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I'm focusing purely on the lovely liquid in my glass at the moment.
Fantastic. That's great. That's great to hear.
I'm getting more bonfire notes and getting some of that confectionery aromas that you were describing earlier.
Yeah, the fruity element. Initially, for me, it was more apple. Now I'm getting kind of like charred pineapple coming through. Just smell it there. It's like,
yeah, maybe a bit of burnt peach. You're getting kind of, the sort of barbecue bananas when you shove the chocolate buttons in the bananas, that kind of thing.
It is, and I've had the pleasure of first sipping this with a group of bartenders who I was hosting in Orkney, out on our lovely landscape round the bonfire, sipping this for the first time, and it was absolutely magical. And needless to say, whenever you drink something from its location or where it's produced, it almost heightens the experience. But
oh yeah,
to have these bartenders, we're all tasting it for the first time, and it was a resounding success, I have to say, and memorable as well, for the time of year and the weather and everything. So it was great.
Yeah, absolutely. That's brilliant. Now, obviously, we don't want to veer away too much from this 15-year-old because it is very, very good. But you kind of gave a hint that there are a slightly different direction that Highland Park are going to be taking in terms of its branding, I guess. As I presume there will be new bottlings to come as well to kind of cement that.
Yeah. So what the brand is going to be looking to do is, in the last few years, we've produced quite a few expressions that have had nods towards our Viking heritage, ancestry, and we're going to pull back from that. A lot of those bottlings have actually been non-age statement whiskies as well, which it has always been great to introduce people to the brand and give them something that's based purely on flavor. There's nothing wrong with non-age. We're still going to produce non-age whiskies, but we're now looking to focus towards aged products, to really focus on the core range and above. So we're looking at 21, 25, 30, 40, and 50. So really sort of a bigger focus on the premium age SKUs, while also highlighting non-age SKUs with our Cask strength series. So we were on batch 2 that came out earlier this year. So we'll be looking to go to batch 3 next year as well. So we will still do those non-age statement expressions, and you'll see a lot, I think, in travel retail. But rather than our heritage focus, it will be more about the harmony or wild harmony focus moving forward, for sure.
Cool. Actually, just as you mentioned it, for viewers at home, if didn't pick up on it, the Cask strength batch 2, which I think you can still get hold of, although it's probably not far off being sold out, I would imagine is well worth picking up, because it's a wonderful bottle of whiskey, and it's very, very reasonably priced for what it is as well.
It really is, and I think we during the last few years we've done a lot of Cask strength bottlings for different markets around the world, which a lot of Highland Park fans, they want to collect them all, but sometimes they're only available in maybe a certain airport, a certain region of the world. And they've always been a success. Whenever anyone's tasted them, they're just like, "This is amazing. We want to see more of this." And now we have this series, which is going to be a regular occurrence. And the first one was, for me personally, when I first tasted it, I was like, "There's no way this is, the strength that it was." I was like, "This is ridiculous. It's so smooth." And then the second one came out, and that had a bit more punch to it, a bit more European oak, but still absolutely delicious. So it's just great to see, again, the non-age statement, but just showing you the strength of the flavors that can come out of these strengths. Sublime.
Yeah, no, very, very worthwhile seeking out. Now, I know you're a big whiskey fan. I mean, obviously Highland Park is your main bag, but is there anything else out there in the world of whiskey that's ticking the boxes for you at the moment? Any hints or tips on what we should be looking out for?
Oh goodness me! I mean, I'm a big fan of all whiskies. I love trying everything. What I was trying to think, what was the last thing I drank that wasn't Highland Park? I did try a lovely whiskey from the Lakes Distillery, which is starting to see a lot more people appreciating. I cannot remember for the life of me the name of the whiskey, but I think it was finished in, I want to say, a red wine cask. It was lovely and fruity, and I'm not sure if you've got a bottle behind you. You might.
Sure, we do quite a bit with lakes, and
I think it was. I think I'm going to stab at the dark and say it was like Sequonia.
I think it sounds like it was one of their limited runs. The whiskey
it was lovely and fruity and sort of creamy. You know what I'd say? Do you remember Campino? Do you remember these little sweets with like strawberry and cream kind of sweets?
Oh, right, okay.
That's kind of the flavors I was getting from that.
Nice. Yeah, well, they're definitely doing some interesting stuff over there. And Davil, the whiskey maker there, he's a complete boffin. Just loves it. And
and that's the thing. I think part of it is because he's got this kind of Willy Wonka-ish thing going on. It kind of draws me in because I'm just like, what are you doing? That sounds amazing.
Exactly.
So
I mean, I think you'll agree it's a great time to be a whiskey lover. There's so much coming from all over the world, as well as Scotland, and there's just, you don't know which way to turn sometimes. There's whiskey everywhere.
and that definitely is. There's a big there is a big uptake in whiskey producing regions around the world that are producing some fabulous and interesting and intriguing whiskies to try. And for me, I'll always say, Scotland is the home of whiskey. It produces the best whiskey. But I've tried some lovely Australian whiskies, Japanese, obviously got a great history, English whiskies now, obviously the lakes, and Irish whiskey coming back to the fore, coming strong, which is fantastic. There's always great whiskies and blended whiskies as well. Let's not forget.
No, absolutely.
The popularity of our single malts are born on the shoulder of the blended whiskey category, and so we shouldn't forget that.
No, that's absolutely true. And finally, Teddy, aside from whiskey, which obviously is in your blood, clearly, what are there any other tipples that you enjoy? Maybe a beer or a wine or any other spirits that you like?
I am open to everything. And I always say, when I'm talking about whiskey, especially to people that work in hospitality, or I say, you might not like whiskey, but it's very great. It's very good to know something about the category. We don't all like. There are people that don't like gin. There are people that don't like, beer or tequila or rum. And I say, unless you're allergic, you just haven't found the right one yet. And as long as you're open to trying what I have today to showcase to you, then maybe down the road you might turn back to this and go, I'll try that again, and you might go, I'm a bit more open to that. And I think because I've come from a hospitality background, I've just been, I didn't like whiskey, 15 years ago. I wasn't a massive whiskey drinker, but I am now. But it's like red wine wasn't my thing. I love red wine now. I think you just, sometimes your palate develops different stages. As long as you're open to experiencing things and not ruling something out purely because you've had a bad hangover experience and just basically crossing off a category. You know, there is a gin for you, there is a tequila for you, there is a cognac for you, there is a rum for you. You just need to find it, and one day you will. Maybe you never will, but at least if you're open to it, you'll have better experiences, and you'll find out what you can narrow down what you like and don't like. I like everything, and I tell you what, my favorite cocktail. I can never give you a favorite wine or a favorite beer, or maybe even struggle on a favorite whiskey outside of Highland Park. But favorite cocktail is a tequila Negroni, and I am 100% definitive that's the best cocktail I'll ever have.
Oh, really?
Tequila, Campari, and sweet vermouth. Okay. Blanco tequila.
So just any Blanco tequila.
Any 100% agave Blanco tequila, preferably maybe one from the Highlands. So it's a bit more floral, a bit lighter. Right. Punta Mez vermouth, a bit spicier, or something spicy, and Campari over ice. Best cocktail ever.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm very partial to a Negroni, so I'm going to try that, and I will give you all the credit. I promise.
Please do. Yeah. It's my favorite cocktail. That's
brilliant.
The only thing I can be definitive of pretty much in my life.
Okay. Well, on your recommendation, I will be trying that. Anyway, listen, Teddy, it's been a joy to have you on again, and thanks so much for giving us your time and for the lovely Highland Park 15-year-old. But I shall wish you all the best for now, and Slanjavar, all the best to you and your family and everyone at Edrington. Have a great Christmas and New Year, and look forward to hopefully actually properly seeing you at some point in the new year.
Yeah, in person. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But awesome. Yeah, no, thank you so much, Eddie. Same to you and yours, and to everyone that's watching. Happy holidays, and everyone stay safe, and skål.
Skål. Slanja.